you issued a statement and you said you now see an acquittal for former Senator Leila de Lima. Why is that?
Because the rules and the Constitution provides that although a bail is a matter of right to all the accused, an exception is in heinous crimes when the evidence of guilt is strong, in which case the right of bail may be denied. And because there is now a trial court finding that that she's entitled to post bail, there's now a finding by the trial court that the evidence of guilt is not strong.
All right. Now, Attorney Roque, at one point, you were the spokesperson for the Duterte administration. With the 3 drug cases, 2 have been dismissed. And in the 3rd drug case, the judge actually said it had nothing to do with the recantation, but the weakness of the evidence itself. Do you believe, frankly, but let's move on to the recantations of the 2 previous drug cases, that the charges against De Lima, looking at it today, that they were trumped up charges? Would you consider that to be so?
Definitely not, because there were not just 1, 2, but if I'm not mistaken, close to 10 witnesses who positively identified that she took part in wide-scale drug trafficking, particularly within Muntinlupa. The problem is decisions such as these, which disregard earlier testimonies of witnesses who have since recanted, cast a doubt into the integrity of the entire judicial system. What will now happen to other witnesses put in a similar situation? You know, Karen, the Supreme Court has said that recantation should not, in fact, be given much weight by trial courts, because they make a mockery out of the sacred oath taken by witnesses, that they will tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help them God. And it makes a mockery of the legal system. And I'm concerned about the policy implication of a decision granting bail where there was previously a decision denying the right to bail, whether we like it or not, partly because of the recantations of witnesses. And I'd like to highlight.
But don't you think what makes a mockery, Attorney Roque, of the justice system is the allegation that the Justice Secretary has actually ordered these witnesses to say specific things which were not true?
That does not actually conform with human experience. Why? Because his witnesses took their oath not once, not twice, not thrice, not 4 times, but even 5 times. They took their oath before the House of Representatives, but before they testified. They took their oath before the Fiscal's office, and they took their oath before the court itself. Every time they would take the stand. So actually, the individuals who made the mockery were the witnesses that told lies. And what worries me now is that with a decision like this, we may be sending the wrong message to potential witnesses that they can lie in court, which is not the case, which should not be the case. And that is why I'm calling on lawmakers now to pass a law amending the revised penal code, providing for substantially stiffer penalties for false testimonies, particularly in criminal cases, because otherwise we will lose the integrity of our judicial system if witnesses can just take their oath and blatantly lie on the witness stand.
Okay. Now, you have many people who have described Leila de Lima as a political prisoner. Would you describe her as such?
Certainly not. A political prisoner is one who is detained, punished for the exercise of their political civil rights. She was accused of widespread drug trafficking. That does not make her a political detainee.
But let's face it, it's actually, I mean, she did quote that when the president came into office, the president was quoted as immediately saying he would make sure she's in jail. He would make sure that he destroys her life. He was really after the former senator. And the president has gone on record. We can pull out so many official statements of the president saying these things.
Well, Karen, what is on record is that the president is not a private complainant against Leila de Lima. What is on record is that the individuals who testified against her were individuals who were very close to her, including her own deputy director of the National Bureau of Investigation when she was no less than Secretary of Justice, and Rodi Dayan. So I think she has to conduct self-examination and self-reflection and ask herself why very close individuals to her testified against her in a manner that they did. But don't blame the president for their testimonies.
don't blame the president for their testimonies. So what you're telling us now is the president is not to blame, that she spent nearly 7 years in jail, incarcerated, considering she might even be acquitted. We're talking about a person that the courts will probably deem innocent of the charges and lost 7 years of her life.
Her cause of action is against those individuals who testified against her. And the president was not one of those who testified. Remember, these individuals, numbering more or less 10, positively testified that she accepted money, that she took part in drug trafficking as Secretary of Justice in order to raise funds for her bid for a senatorial seat. No? And the president, the former president, had nothing to do with that. He did not testify. He did not say anything negative about Leila de Lima in court. But on the other hand, people who are
he was president. I mean, he was president at that point, so he won't be involved in any kind of hearing.
Well, in the same way, it just so happened the National Prosecution Service is under the executive branch. But as you know, and I have said this before, the very first instance I met Mr. Ragos was not because of the president. I was then a congressman. I was pulled out from a baptism party of congressman, and I met him. I was shocked at what he told me, but he was not introduced to me by the president, but a former lawmaker.
Okay, so Attorney Roque, given the fact that you have your own personal experiences and you have your own narrative of this particular case, why do you think then did the court dismiss the two cases and is bound to acquit her in the third case? What's the reason, if you're telling me the evidence is this strong?
Well, I think the witnesses had the reasons for the recantations, but only Leila de Lima can tell us how and why they recanted their previous testimonies. But it certainly was not because of the former president.
Okay. All right. Now, before we go, as we know in the Philippines, the tides always turn, and you and the former senator had actually traded barbs somehow in 2018 when De Lima accused you and said you sold your identity for a possible Senate run. Do you remember this? She accused you of that. This is in a 2018 interview with her, and you actually were recorded as saying this. And I want to run it now because I want your reaction on it today. Can we show that particular video of then former spokesperson Harry Roque?
Happy anniversary on your first year of detention. May you spend the rest of your life in jail.
Okay, so Attorney Roque, there you were, in power, seeing this video now on social media, saying that you spend the rest of your life in jail, goodbye. What are your thoughts on that, looking at it today?
I certainly regret that the witnesses recanted their testimonies, because when I personally interviewed the witnesses against her, I was convinced that she was part of large-scale drug trafficking, and I think society now is less secure with Leila de Lima freed from jail.
But you don't regret your words, your actions. I mean, being in power at that time, and then looking how actually a few years after, it was in a state of absolute power. Some could have said hubris or even arrogance or just conceit, or the irresponsibility of saying those words, a lack of compassion. Do you regret saying those words, attorney?
No, Karen, because I heard the testimonies of the witnesses against her, and I am convinced as a lawyer of 32 years of experience that they were telling the truth. I do not know why they recanted, but perhaps Leila de Lima is in a better position to tell us why they did so.